Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and welcome back to Black American Lineage. Thank you for your support. Thank you for sticking with this channel and watching these videos and leaving comments. Thank you so much. And I'm just here to say that by the time we get through unraveling all of this history and all of the involvement that our ancestors, our kinfolk had in the development of this country is going to belong to us. Now we have the second largest bank in the United States, maybe even the world, I'm not sure how big it is, have admitted their links to slavery. So this slavery goes all the way back to the beginning of this empire. J.P. Morgan discloses past links to slavery. New York, January 20th. J.P. Morgan Chase & Company filed a disclosure statement Thursday with the city of Chicago, acknowledging that two of its predecessor banks received thousands of slaves as collateral prior to the Civil War. Now remember, stocks and bonds came from the enslaved people. Their bodies were the stock and their labor was the bond. So J.P. Morgan Chase Company was built literally on the backs of the enslaved people, like we continue to say. The New York-based bank, the nation's second largest, apologized for contributing to a brutal and unjust institution and said it was setting up a scholarship fund in Louisiana to try to make amends. Well, I'm going to tell them right now, a scholarship fund is not enough. That's not what we need. They need to establish a reparations fund, and they need to start off each one of these companies with no less than $100 billion just for starters, because they got a whole lot more out of it than $100 billion. J.P. Morgan officials said the bank undertook the study after Chicago passed an ordinance in 2003 requiring companies that do business with the city to research their history to determine any links to slavery. So see, pressure was put on them to reveal that yes, they had benefited from slavery. The historical analysis was conducted for J.P. Morgan by History Associates Incorporated of Rockville. See, everybody is going to have to reveal their links to slavery before it's over. All of this information has to come out before the country is going to consider giving Black American descendants of slavery reparations. This is not going to be done fast or easy. And people who need reparations to pay their light bill next month need to get out of the discussion, because it's going to take time. Because these people are not going to acknowledge their role in slavery unless there's some money involved, unless somebody like the city of Chicago says, if you want to do business with Chicago, we need to know what your past is. Were you connected to the transatlantic slave trade? And chances are, if they've been in operation since the 1800s, they made money off slavery. J.P. Morgan's disclosure was outlined in a letter to the bank's employees that was signed by William B. Harrison Jr., the bank's chairman and chief executive, and James DeMond, the president and chief operating officer. The letter was made available to reporters. Well, they won't get a hold to it anyway. The bank said researchers found that two now defunct predecessor banks, Citizen Bank and Canal Bank, both based in Louisiana, served plantations from the 1830s until the Civil War. Now listen to this. Collateral for mortgages and other loans included land, equipment, and or enslaved individuals, the statement said. So in other words, if you got a loan from one of those banks and you defaulted on that loan and didn't pay it back, The bank would take your slaves. That's what that meant. I guarantee you, those banks took a lot of slaves, and those slaves worked and suffered under that system. J.P. Morgan estimated that the two banks they didn't accept, they took approximately 13,000 enslaved individuals as collateral, and that the banks came to own approximately 1,250 enslaved individuals as a result of defaults. The disclosure did not make clear what happened to those individuals. Well, I'm going to make a wild guess. Those individuals ended up in those sugarcane fields of Louisiana, or more specifically, the owners of those banks. The two Louisiana banks merged in 1924, but failed in March 1933 amid the Depression. Yay! A federally chartered bank in May 1933 assumed some of the bank's assets, and that institution, the National Bank of Commerce in New Orleans, was a precursor of Bank One Corporation. Bank One was purchased last year by J.P. Morgan. We apologize to the African American community, particularly those who are descendants of slaves, and to the rest of the American public for the role that Citizen Bank and Canal Bank played, Harrison and DeMond said in their statement. The slavery era was a tragic time in U.S. history and in our company's history. Well, that's right, it was. The slavery era was a tragic time in U.S. history. Yeah, disgraceful. J.P. Morgan said it was setting up a program called Smart Start Louisiana. The bank will provide $5 million over 5 years for full tuition undergraduate scholarships for Black students from Louisiana to attend college in their home state. Students will have the opportunity to intern at the firm during the summer with the goal of being hired upon graduation, the statement said. J.P. Morgan Chase and Company's predecessors counted slaves as collateral, which is to say, they did not count them as human beings. Now, I see this as a project for Black men, especially the ones who have complained about Goldman Sachs allotting $100 billion for Black women to start businesses and improve their educational skills and so forth. They need to get together in a collaborative effort and pressure J.P. Morgan into giving them a similar allotment to get started and improve their educational skills, especially helping Black men who have been falsely incarcerated and then come out of prison. They don't have the skills that they need or the money they need to start a business. That should be a project for Black men. All of these companies need to put some money on the table because they all benefited from slave labor. And this would be the time to gatekeep, because as soon as they say that they're going to give scholarships or anything to Black American descendants of slavery, every Black person thinks they're supposed to jump in the line. So this is the time to gatekeep. Now, that article was trying to make it seem like J.P. Morgan was innocent, that they didn't get involved in the slavery. It was those predecessor banks, Citizen Bank and Canal Bank. But now, J.P. Morgan was a bank in New York City. All of these companies on this page were underwritten by J.P. Morgan, and almost all of these companies, if not all of them, began on the backs of slave labor. Okay? So anyway, y'all, that's what I wanted to bring to you today. That J.P. Morgan, again, we've got a major institution involved in the enslavement of Black people. We are owed money. We are owed reparations. This has to be done correctly, everybody needs to show their hand and put some money on the table. Now that's how I feel about it. Okay, y'all, let me know what you think about this. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment. And as always, have a wonderful evening.